Interior, all or video. Sometime in the early 90s, a chubby little boy with a mushroom haircut, 10, with a Toy Biz action figure in one hand and a $5 bill in the other, stands before the video rack. He is Josiah. He is awesome. But as we'll come to learn, not the brightest. Mom, sweet but firm. Hurry up, please. Josiah can't move. Slowly, with a trembling hand, he reaches for a VHS sleeve. It's self-sheathed in plastic. He doesn't bother to grab the case, but the laminated tag, noting the movie's title and shelf number. The title, prominently displayed in the glorious VHS sleeve, reads, Captain America. My mind was blown when I discovered there was a Captain America live-action feature film. I'd seen the 1970s TV movies, and while I liked them, even I felt disappointed with those. I mean, what's the deal with the costume? That version does have a special place in my heart. Dude, a van with a motorcycle in the back? Win-win. Enough of my personal, albeit fictionalized background. Let's take a look at the real background of that actual Captain America feature live action film. The film was developed by the infamous Cannon Films.
Cannon Films and Weird Dynamite.
Cannon famously tried to get a Spider-Man film made.
Spider-Man, the movie. A live-action spectacular.
You can trace a zigging, zagging, indirect line from Cannon's incarnation through various legal battles to the Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi version. They also optioned the rights to Superman and somehow managed to make a movie worse than Superman 3.
The quest for peace.
In a sense, Cannon was ahead of the game, as they saw something in these characters, but they somehow also clearly didn't get it. At one point, they were working on a Spider-Man movie with a $20 million budget, but Masters of the Universe and Superman 4 took most of their resources, and Spidey's budget was cut to just $7 million. Getting back to Captain America, it was erroneously promoted by Cannon that Captain America was created by Stan Lee. There's certainly plenty of controversy about creating/co-creating with Stan Lee, but Stan would never take credit for a Jack Kirby, Joe Simon creation that occurred before he was truly even in the business. The script was actually called Bloody Awful by then president of Marvel Entertainment, Jim Gouton, and included a draft co-written by Michael Winner, the director of Death Wish, which is essentially Charles Bronson as the Punisher. So apparently Winner was also on board to direct in 1986.
Directed by Michael Winner.
Actor Ronnie Cox, who played President Kimball in the film, told me that the script was brilliant. It was serious, but tongue-in-cheek, with clever moments such as Cap's reaction to seeing a Volkswagen in New York City. Also, Cannon had a tendency to over-promote movies well before they were close to being made.
America's favorite superhero explodes onto the screen, waging a war on today's criminals. Cannon Films presents a live-action version of Captain America.
The rights were dragged through the mud along with those to Spider-Man, and was actually made by Cannon 2, aka 21st Century, which is totally supposed to make you think you're watching some better version of 20th Century Fox. You're not. '21st Century needed money. Batman was the biggest movie of 1989, so director Albert Yin suggested a comic book film of their own. The rights to Captain America carried over when 21st Century was formed. The Spider-Man rights, on the other hand, began their spider web of legal complexity. To finance Captain America, the filmmakers traveled around Europe with a suitcase that was loaded with cash by investors to keep the struggling production afloat. The situation was so dire near the end that in order to avoid production being shut down, they spent days shooting without film. They'd say, "Oh no, the film must have been destroyed in the lab." Then they'd scrap together what film they were able to and would shoot what they could the next day. The result? There was stuff they were never able to shoot. I asked Ronnie Cox about this, and he said he wasn't aware of it, so I guess the filmmakers did a good job of hiding it from the cast. But they never quit despite insurmountable odds, and finished the film. Well, most of it. And as messy as it is, that is impressive. Now let's take a look at what they did shoot. The film opens in Italy, because why would a Captain America movie start anywhere else? We even get the Captain America logo over some Italian kids. These Italian kids are a useless transition device to show us a boy playing piano. The boy is taken because he's smart. His family is killed and, spoiler alert, Lots of spoilers in this, by the way. This is all spoilers. He'll become the Red Skull. Yes, the Red Skull is Italian. Also, there's a Red Skull rat. This shows the difference from the original script that Ronnie Cox said he loved to the director's version. The director put much more of an emphasis on the Red Skull. Clearly too much of a Red Skull emphasis. This is a Captain America movie after all. And again, spoilers will be completely constant from here on out. 7 years later, and 5 minutes into the film, the first words of English are spoken as we learn of Project Rebirth, a process to create a super soldier that is specific to someone born with a birth defect and will make them as strong as an athlete. That's it. An athlete, not a super athlete or superhero or anything. Just an athlete. Oh well, Captain America's about to show up. I'm sure things will get much better. Cut to Redondo Beach, California, where Steve Rogers is on vacation from New York. Only the first half of that sentence is true. In this film, Steve is from Redondo Beach. It's clearly a choice made out of cheapness. Filming in New York is expensive after all. Steve talks to his mom, who I swear is younger than him and I really thought was Kate Capshaw, but it's actually Ralphie's mom.
Here, hold it.
Steve then goes to find his girl Bernie. They all seem pretty confident that Steve is gonna die. And one more super weird thing about this movie, Steve Rogers is played by Matt Salinger, the actual son of Catcher in the Rye author J.D. Salinger. I guess his family legacy will help sell this movie? And he smokes. Captain California smokes. Now I get it, 1943, it's different times, but this movie was made in the late 1980s. When I was a kid in the late 1980s, that wasn't cool. Smoking was bad. There were like afternoon specials about it. In a lab hidden under a diner, actually a cool scene where the kid from Lost in Space goes in and through a secret door, Captain America is made Captain America by a female Italian doctor. Another unnecessary change, but this one I actually like for some reason. After shots of muscles not getting any bigger and flashing lights, a Nazi brought in by the Lost in Space kid kills the doc and shoots Cap. Cap will get shot a lot in this movie. Cap kills the guy basically by knocking him down. Before the first mission, there's actually a nice joke about the costume. Having been made by the doc, the suit is fireproof, and while she didn't make it with camouflage in mind,
But she sure did love the red, white, and blue.
Cap attempts to sneak up on the super death rocket and is instantly discovered. Cap fights a Red Skull, loses handily, and is strapped to the rocket. The rocket launches and Cap grabs Red Skull's arm. Red Skull, who could have just as easily stabbed or cut off Cap's hand, cuts off his own hand. As a kid, I thought it was awesome, and frankly, I still kind of do. The rocket, which was shot from Germany, is nearing the White House when Cap finally decides to redirect it. It crash lands in Alaska and Cap freezes to death. Well, not to death. All told, that was about 25 minutes of film. And while I'm kind of ragging on it, it actually kind of works really well. You get character, you get action, and things move along. And while the costume isn't bad, at least it's comics accurate. Granted, the plastic ears are insane, but I really didn't notice them, and Red Skull looks cool by 1990s C movie standards. However, there is still an hour left, and that hour is an absolute slog, so I'm gonna move a little bit quicker from here on out. We meet two super annoying kids. No, not me, but one will become Ned Beatty and one President Ronnie Cox. The adult versions of these two fellows are the best things about this movie. A quick but related aside about these two actors. They actually knew each other going back to 1963 at the Arena stage in Washington, D.C. They would later both go on to be cast in Deliverance, and even though they'd been friends for a decade, each was cast totally without knowledge of the other being cast. Returning to the movie, we get some classic meta-Marvel references to Submariner and the Human Torch.
Okay, so it wasn't Submariner and it couldn't have been Human Torch.
Even in their worst movies, Marvel proved to be ahead of the game, showing there was a bigger world than just what we see in this one film. We then transition to the 1990s through spinning newspapers as we learn the bullet points of American history. Then, Cap thaws out and is constantly chased through the movie. He eventually gets to Redondo Beach, where Bernie's moved on, it's been like 50 years, and is now wearing bad, old age makeup. Good news though, she's murdered and has a hot young blonde 90s daughter who looks identical to Bernie from the 1940s. Her name is Sharon, which maybe I guess is a reference to Sharon Carter? In LA, where some punks asked Cap for a cigarette, the dude was smoking when he left. Cap laments his lost years as the words to a song that's a bit on the nose plays.
Trying to remember what I just can't forget. Feel familiar face. Is there anyone still here? I'm still searching, trying to remember these memories of you.
Cap and Sharon return to the diner, and in my favorite background detail, it's next to a Del Taco. Del Taco is like my favorite thing about California. I know it's terrible, but when I moved here, I've never experienced Del Taco. It's great for fast food. Temper your expectations, but for fast food, it's just wonderful. Well, you know, it's Del Taco. Earlier, everyone says how the doctor only had the info in her head, yet they go to the lab, open her top desk drawer, and immediately find a book with all the information they need. While Cap is killing Italians in the shadowy smoking lab saying, "This was for Bernie and that was for Bernie," the president is kidnapped. The news tells us about 30 people stormed his hotel. Now that sounds awesome, only that kind of awesome also sounds expensive. 30 people storming a hotel? Pretty cool Captain America movie, right? Right? Yeah. I'm sure the scene in the script was awesome. Maybe they shot it without filming the camera? I specifically asked Ronnie Cox about this, and he doesn't recall if there was some epic action sequence here, but he reiterated that there was a lot in the script that didn't make it to film. In Italy, Cap pretends to be sick to get Sharon to pull over. She does. He steals the car.
What are you doing? Wait a minute, what are you doing?
Now, I didn't mention it the first time, but this is the second time he does this exact same thing. Earlier, in Alaska or Canada, wherever it was, he did just that to Ned Beatty. Despite the fact that Cap had the car, Sharon immediately shows up.
John, though.
They then get a tape of Red Skull's origin. It comes up later. But it's really kind of pointless because it doesn't actually impact the Red Skull in any kind of significant way whatsoever. And also I failed to mention this as well, but Red Skull is now just a creepy old Italian dude with a regular-ish face. I guess he paid for plastic surgery while monopolizing global power. Sharon is captured. Cap is chased some more. The president uses acid to escape, and eventually the movie drags you to a climax, when the cornered president decides to kill himself. It's an awesome moment, actually. I love that President Ronnie Cox is a true action hero. Probably the truest action hero in this movie.
Then you can't win.
Cap catches him, and they fight their way through the only cool set in this movie, the overused Italian castle, which is in Dubrovnik and then Yugoslavia, now Croatia, where I actually have distant relatives. Also, it just occurred to me, this is really not a Captain America movie, but a Red Skull movie. He's the more interesting character here, and he kind of has more of a character arc, which was a change by the director. Again, he was enamored with the Red Skull, and casting Matt Salinger, who wasn't particularly great, though I'd say he's very likable in the role, helped assure this was more a Red Skull movie and less a Captain America one. Anyway, Red Skull has some totally unexplained doomsday device, and Cap uses his shield to knock a dummy off the side of the castle. To end the movie, Cap jams his face at you. Really. We get another image of Cap, different from the face jam one, and it transitions to a comic book Cap over the credits. I think it's there to taunt you as another one of those on-the-nose songs plays.
Gotta keep it going now. The red, white, and blue.
There's a whole lot wrong with this movie, but I still kind of love it. Not kind of, I just plain love it. I realize it's an utterly broken disaster of a movie, but I'll never forget my trembling hand in that Oliver video, taking it home and watching it several times. I love that movie. It absolutely doesn't hold up, but it's worth watching, if only for the sake of irony. This is where Marvel began. As shaky and crumbly as the foundations were, this is one of the earliest Marvel movies. And this is part of a series. We're going to talk about some other very early Marvel movies. So coming up next, The Punisher, starring Dolph Lundgren. Wait, what? Why? Thanks for watching! Finally, a huge thanks to Ronnie Cox, who spoke with me on the phone about this film and his career in general. I can't say enough to express my gratitude to him giving me 40 minutes of his time on a Sunday morning.
Mr. President! Thanks.
Trying to remember what I just can't forget. Feel like a stranger in my hometown. I look around for a familiar